Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Thank you very much. If you don't mind, after I'm finished, if Ouija or Hallie or Vivian or one of our female colleagues could go after me, that would be great. Mr. President, just to follow up on these allegations against Brett Kavanaugh.
What does he mean by that? Explain. What does that mean?
Great if a female.
What does it mean? No, what does it mean?
It would be great if a female reporter would ask you a question about this issue. So if you don't mind,
I wouldn't mind that at all. No, wouldn't mind it at all.
All right. Well, let me. If I
wouldn't make any difference to me.
All right.
Go ahead.
If I could follow up on John and John's question, why is it, Mr. President, that you always seem to side with the accused and not the accuser? You have three women here who are all making allegations, who are all asking that their stories be heard. And, you know, if you look at the case of Roy Moore, if you look at the case of one of your staffers, you seem to time and again side with the accused and not the accuser. Is that because of the many allegations that you've had made against you over the years?
Well, first of all, I wasn't happy with Roy Moore. Let's get that straight. But Roy Moore was a Republican candidate, and I would have rather had a Republican candidate win. I was very happy with Luther Strange, who was a terrific man from Alabama, but Luther Strange had a lot of things going against him. As far as women, whether it's a man or a woman, these are, you know, it can happen the other way. Allegations can go the other way also. You understand that. And whether it was a man or a woman, 30 years ago, 36 years ago, in fact, they don't even know how many years ago because nobody knows what the time is. That's a long time. And I could pick, as an example, hopefully I won't have to do it as a replacement, because hopefully this is going to go very well on Thursday. It's going to go very well on Monday or Saturday or Sunday or whenever they vote. But I could pick a woman, and she could have charges made from many years ago also.
But don't you understand,
and I would
that
look at the character. No, what I have to do
are reluctant to come forward. You've raised doubts about these accusers. Many of them.
I don't think people are reluctant to come forward. They're going to have a chance to speak at a. They have a major chance to speak. Excuse me. They have a major chance to speak, and it will be tomorrow, I assume. We've delayed this, meaning the Republican senators, not me. The Republican senators have delayed this for weeks now. They're giving the women a major chance to speak. Now, it's possible I'll hear that and I'll say, hey, I'm changing my mind. That is possible. We want to give them a chance to speak.
You think all three
and they're given.
All three should have the chance?
Well, whoever is given a chance. We've delayed it a long time. But they're going to have a big shot at speaking and making their case. And you know what? I could be persuaded also.
It is Thursday, the 27th of September of 2018, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and our daily special is Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. It's not Terrytown Chowder Tuesdays, as I said at the end of yesterday's show. Who knows? I'll chalk it up to geopolitical fatigue. Okay? I hope that's the excuse. Well, it really sounds like Trump will indeed change his mind on anything. He can be convinced. Apparently he was convinced that he won the election fair and square when Kislyak and others met with him in the Oval Office and they joked about getting Comey fired. And then he handed over sensitive intelligence that he said, yeah, this came from the Israelis, and you'll be able to figure out their methods and, more importantly, the people that you want to kill. Well, that's who we got in the Oval Office right now running the show, and, yeah. So, he didn't like that question. Why do you always choose the man over the woman? Why is his story always correct and the woman's, she's a lying witch? He didn't like that at all. Nope. And we know why. Because they never believe that they assault and rape women. They're just showing them who's the boss. Okay? It's not about the sex. It's about the power. And obviously, power is not rape. Power is power. It's our God-given right for being who we are. And that's reason enough to have a democratic, representative democratic republic, because people like that, you either reform them or you put them in, their proper role for what they are duly suited for. And in this case, I think making license plates might be a little bit above his intellectual acumen. You know, if he was on the stamping machine, he'd be stamping his hand all the time. He wouldn't know how to, he couldn't figure out how to get his hand out from it. Jesus. What's on the rest of the menu today here in the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays, folks. A little bit of jambalaya. A little bit of spice in your life. Well, Trump's EPA makes a sneaky move to hamstring its Children's Health Office. I don't know what it is about these people. Like money before saving communities from being poisoned? Okay. Mueller has evidence Erik Prince's meeting in the Seychelles was actually prearranged to set up a back channel between the Trump administration and Russia, just like everyone said. But it looks like Mueller does have that evidence. Erik Prince said, we were just talking about general stuff over beer. And I'm thinking, wait a second, you're sitting down with people who don't drink. It's against their religion. What are you talking about? And Devin Nunes is now convinced Trump is part of a deep state conspiracy against Trump. I don't know. Devin, step away from the InfoWars. Okay, step away and sit down. We'll be with you in just a moment. After the break, we move to the chef's table where the far-right group behind the pro-Kavanaugh ad blitz suddenly gets cold feet. And the UK Defense Ministry names one of the Salisbury poisoning suspects as a decorated Russian colonel, not the regular tourists that they claim they were, simply and merely looking for beautiful floral print wallpaper that they can hang in their places back home. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. mention as a reminder that at some point I have to put myself in a bubble and not take in any more news, because you get news overload, and we're curating a show here. And I used to practice with having as many ingredients in a dish as I could concoct. And sometimes just a few is better. But as I said, we've curated a show here, and I have no idea how the hearing has gone and is going. Presumably, each of the Republican senators are going to give an opening statement. And then they won't say another thing. Presumably. I don't know. I didn't get to see the beginning of it. But, that stated, I apologize. We'll speak about it tomorrow because I'll be getting it in reruns. Some of us are going to have to do that. It's like the World Series when I was a kid. They always played it during the day. You know, because I got to tell you, there was a time, and I remember this, not all ballparks had lights. So you had to play day games. Looking at you, Chicago. And so we would, and therefore they tended to not even have reruns of the game. You had to wait. So I would listen to it on the radio and catch snippets and the rerun later. So I will catch this. I don't know, what is this? It's a combination of Hunger Games, Survivor, Nuremberg trial. Yeah, it's great bringing in a prosecutor to, I don't know, interrogate the victim. I guess that's how they do it in Maricopa, and I guess that's why this particular prosecutor has such a terrible record. The backlog there is astounding. Now, you can't really blame the DA wholly, because she was also tasked with fulfilling Arpaio's whims to pick up every brown person that you saw. And that took some time and resources. And you would just take them away from the rape kits. That kind of thing. Oh, rape. That's a simple thing. Child abduction. Are they brown? It doesn't matter. Then does it? Are they white? We'll get to it. We got more important things to do here. And that's who is prosecuting. The only interview that she's ever given, I should remind folks, is on an extreme Christian TV station, where they believe that children should be corrected, and most sexual assault is because of the evil of society and essentially women not knowing their proper roles in the family, and that's subservient to the man. Stay home and shut up. So, I'm just saying, that's who they chose. So I can imagine how it's going. Well, if you go to the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, you will notice the chat room link at the rightish of the page, and that is monitored by Kelly Lincoln. Thank you, Kelly. Do check out her shows on Saturday. At the Table with Kelly Lincoln is at 3 p.m. on the West Coast. That would be 6 p.m. on the East Coast. And then later on that evening, she teams up with Ricky, and they both command the Roundtable Roundhouse Power Hour. And that begins at 9 p.m. on the West Coast, midnight on the East Coast. Yeah, it's Saturday. So do check that out. Even before you get to the bottom of the page, you will notice the scroll that is happening at our homepage at netrootsradio.com. And those are links in which you can find out both, or find out if you are registered, and then also, if you are not registered for any reason, you can register. Right there, there's a link to take you there. So hurry up. Time's flying, and you might miss out. You don't want provisional ballots, okay? Really, I'm going to let you know a secret. They don't count those. They put them aside in a stack. And maybe they'll look at them one day. And mostly they don't. So get registered quickly. Now down at the bottom of our homepage again, across from the chat room link, on the leftish of the page is the contribute button. Do please become a Patreon of Netroots Radio. Donuts now cost more than what you could contribute to Netroots Radio on a monthly basis. Please. We are in dire need. Machinery gets wear and tear. Though I got to tell you, we're We have a crew here who knows how to eke out every little bit. Thank you, my crew. Oh, my God. So, but thank you for your generosity, because your contributions keep the lights a-blinking in their proper order on the modem, and that's always a good thing. You can follow Netroots Radio on Twitter at Netroots Radio. Follow us on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter at Justice Putnam. And then also, very importantly, I post the show notes and links diary. Diary, that's a clue right there, because that is on Daily Codes. And I can be found there as Justice Putnam. You can follow the show on Facebook, and we are on Twitter at Cookbook West. Yeah, that's how that is. You can then get podcasts of the show by way of iHeartRadio. Yeah, iHeart. They have a pretty big reach, so okay. They said we can be on their platform, and we will. And it's a good thing for now. And also by way of Stitcher, Spreaker, TuneIn, YouTube. We're on the iTunes registry. And also wherever fine and not so fine podcasts can be found. Alrighty, I better get on with this story here. The EPA's made a sneaky move to hamstring its Children's Health Office. Yeah, they don't like the director, apparently, of this office, and it could just be, political gamesmanship, bureaucratic infighting, but I think it's probably a little bit more than that, knowing who else is involved in this. Joe Rahm of Think Progress brings us this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. Acting EPA Administrator Andrew Wheeler is not going to end Trump's war on children's health, but the former coal lobbyist does have sneakier tactics than his much investigated predecessor Scott Pruitt. Wheeler has put the director of the Office of Children's Health Protection, Dr. Ruth Etzel, on administrative leave without any explanation. Etzel, as the EPA's website notes, is an award-winning pediatrician and public health expert whose career to protect children from hazards in the environment spans 3 decades. Well, they just type that in, and anybody who falls under that aegis is going to get purged. You want to protect children from hazards in the environment? Are you saying man-made hazards in the environment? There's no such things as that. Only God can do to the environment what the environment can do to man. Come on. Plus, it might hit their bottom line if she is actually there to protect children from hazards in the environment. 3 decades. That means she's an Obama appointee. She was there during Obama's time. He kept her, and therefore she's an appointee of him. 3 decades? It doesn't matter. Deep state. This seems like a sneaky way for the EPA to get rid of this program and not be upfront about it, as Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha told the New York Times. Dr. Hanna-Attisha is the pediatrician whose tests of children's blood revealed elevated lead levels in Flint, Michigan's water. And a former EPA official called the move highly unusual. Well, look, they found the lead in the water because somebody had the resources to find it. They were terraforming Flint so that they could turn it into, something other than what it was. And what it was, there's a lot of black people living there. And property is always more valuable when it's delivered vacant. What's especially worrisome is that children are much more vulnerable to pollution and toxins than adults because key organs are still developing. They put things in their mouths like lead paint. They eat more, drink more, and breathe more in proportion to their body size, as the OCHP website explains. And this special vulnerability is why President Bill Clinton and then EPA Chief Carol Browner created the office in the first place in 1997. Oh, that was the other thing they put into the search. Was anything under Bill Clinton? has to be purged as also because it has a Clinton on it. Cody Fenwick of Alternet brings us this next offering here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy's Bistro Cafe. One of the many threads in the ongoing Russia investigation is a mysterious meeting between Blackwater founder and ally to Donald Trump, Erik Prince, and Kirill Dmitriev, the CEO of Russia's sovereign wealth fund, during the presidential transition period in January of 2017. Prince has said that the meeting, also attended by UAE advisor George Nader, was not prearranged and was just over a beer. He said he was not representing Trump in the meeting. However, a report from the Washington Post found that special counsel Robert Mueller has evidence that the meeting was actually prearranged to set up a back channel between the Trump administration and Russia. I should probably offer an editorial opinion here. This leak did not come from Mueller's office. This leak came from the White House, somebody in the White House who knows about the investigation and where it's going. Now, I should also add that is in this reporter's editorial opinion. And now, a new report from the Daily Beast details an account of the meeting from a memo kept by the Russian side of the conversation. It contains the details for a plan for an expansive alliance between the U.S. and Russia on a range of issues. These include an alliance between U.S. and Russia forces to fight ISIS, a serious joint effort to address the spread of weapons of mass destruction, a proposal for joint economic investment in each country. Oh, really? Like they haven't been investing in their money laundering operations already? Oh, maybe they're going to move up. Thanks. An honest and open and continual dialogue on differences between the countries. A working group to improve the U.S.-Russia relationship. Wow, that sounds rather benign, doesn't it? The report does not resolve many of the open questions about the meeting, particularly regarding any potential coordination with the Trump camp. But it does paint a clearer picture of what the meeting was discussed at that meeting, which is particularly startling given the Russian interference in the 2016 election. And an Obama State Department official called the proposal breathtaking. West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy's Bistro Cafe, Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. A little bit of jambalaya, a little bit of spice in your life. Speaking of spicy, this last offering here is by Tommy Christopher from Share Blue Media, Devin Nunes. Oh man, is he a hot chili pepper. You know, he has never allowed the truth to stand in the way of his quest to undermine the FBI's Russia investigation. But Nunes outdid himself this week by claiming that the deep state conspiracy against Trump has somehow also enlisted Trump himself. Wow. This guy's not just relegating his reading material to spy novels. Something a little bit deeper going on here. During an interview on Monday, radio host Trevor Carey asked Nunes why a cache of documents that Trump ordered declassified and released last week has not come out yet. Nunes has been pushing Trump to order these documents released, despite strong objections from the Department of Justice that doing so would undermine national security because Nunes claims the documents would somehow prove the FBI was biased against Trump. What is the holdup? I thought we were going to see that this week, Carey asked of the document release. Nunes responded that Trump was very clear on Monday when he ordered the documents to be released last week. And then I think what you saw happen, now this is Nunes speaking here, is that the deep state, for lack of a better term, got to him. Nunes said, adding that he thought embattled Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, and that's how he calls him because it's really Rosenstein, was likely in the middle of this. Well, of course, anybody following the actual rule of law is the dreaded evil deep state. And they convinced Trump that it might not be a good idea to be outing FBI agents who are potentially targets for murder. It's one thing when you leave some informants, on Russian soil out to hang, or worse. But the FBI doesn't like it when it's their own agents in the field. Okay? Nunes went on to mock the serious national security concerns that officials have raised over the release of the documents. They cry wolf and they say, oh my God, we're going to destroy national security. But they have used that excuse way too many times, Nunes said. Is this guy going to get reelected? I mean, do people in his district, do his constituents, the people who actually voted for him, do they get any of this? I think that Jans, the Democratic candidate running against him, the DA in that county, by the way, has a fair chance. But in reality, what Nunes refers to as the shadowy deep state is basically the entire U.S. Department of Justice. And when Nunes claims that DOJ officials somehow got to Trump to convince him to work against his own interests, Nunes is talking about appointees who were handpicked by Trump. Why is Devin Nunes doing the things that he's doing? I make the joke that, just look to see how many rubles have passed through his coffers. We know how these efforts work, these measures work actively. There's always a backup. If their guy in the Oval Office isn't able to get them the documents that they want, they do have the head of the Senate or the House Intelligence Committee. Now, the fact that Trump has been shamed into slowing down this process by his own officials and America's closest allies doesn't show that he's been captured by some deep state conspiracy. What it does show is that the national security concerns that Nunes mocks are very real, and that Nunes cares more about protecting Trump than protecting this country. On the other hand, I think it's way beyond protecting Trump at this point. I think that he's answering to a higher power. All right, we better get to our break. And when we come back, we will, of course, go through weather from around the world and finish up with the stories that we have curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Welcome to A Cup of Health with CDC, a weekly feature of the MMWR, the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. I'm your host, Dr. Kathleen Dooling. Occasional aches and pains are an expected part of life, but for many people, pain is a constant companion. Dr. Chad Helmick is with CDC's National Center for Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. He's joining us today to discuss ways to manage chronic pain. Welcome to the show, Chad.
Thank you.
Chad, how many people in the U.S. suffer from chronic pain?
In 2016, 50 million adults had chronic pain, which is pain on most or every day in the past 6 months. More interesting, though, is that 20 million people have high-impact chronic pain, which is chronic pain that also limits their work or life activities on most or every day in the past 6 months. This is a problem because chronic pain is associated not only with symptoms, but with anxiety and depression, reduced quality of life, and the risk of opioid problems.
What are the most common causes of chronic pain?
The most common causes generally relate to bones and joints, like low back pain and arthritis, but there are many other causes: headaches, sickle cell disease, fibromyalgia, surgery and injuries, and many, many others.
Is chronic pain more common in any particular group of people?
Yes, it occurs at all ages, but it's more common in older middle-aged adults and in the oldest 85 and older. It's also more common in women, poor people, and those who live in rural areas.
How is chronic pain treated?
Well, the first thing to do is to get a diagnosis, which can help guide treatment. But the thinking about chronic pain now is that it becomes a chronic disease by itself, regardless of the cause, and that can cause significant problems. The real goal in management is to have a manageable level of pain, not to get rid of all pain. There are several steps that can be taken, and these are sometimes difficult to do because of barriers to access. But it makes sense to do the simplest and safest things first. And these are non-drug steps. Things like physical activity. Walking is perfectly good to help reduce pain. Also, self-management education can give you some confidence in managing chronic pain when you're on your own. There's also physical therapy, occupational therapy, psychological therapy, better sleep, which usually means less alcohol, and seeing a chiropractor or getting biofeedback and massage. If that's not enough, non-opioid drugs like Tylenol or Motrin and Advil or naproxen or Aleve can help. If those don't work, then it's time to consider something stronger. Sometimes that's opioids, but there's not great evidence that opioids are good for long-term pain in most people.
Do you have any advice for people suffering from chronic pain?
Well, it's important to work with a variety of providers who are working together to help you. The goal, again, is manageable pain so you can live a productive life. This can include physical therapy, and most people can walk, to treat any underlying depression or anxiety, and to avoid further injuries. Finally, the National Pain Strategy is laying out a strategic roadmap to improve pain management system in this country.
Where can listeners get more information about managing chronic pain?
Listeners can go to the NIH website, nih.gov, and type in National Pain Strategy.
Thanks, Chad. I've been talking today with Dr. Chad Helmick about ways to manage chronic pain. If you're experiencing daily pain, talk with your healthcare provider to ensure you have the correct diagnosis and know how to manage your condition. Until next time, be well. This is Dr. Kathleen Dooling for A Cup of Health with CDC.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
If you think our government's war policy has become out-of-this-world cuckoo, consider the spaciness being proposed by the cosmonauts on Spaceship Trump. Spending nearly $700 billion a year on maintaining the 5 branches of the U.S. war machine, not counting the cost of actually fighting all the wars they get into, is not enough, they now tell us. So, prepare to soar militarily and budgetarily into a boundless war theater where none have gone before. Yes, outer space. It seems that Captain Trump himself woke up one morning in June and abruptly announced that he was bored with the fusty old Army, Air Force, etc., so he wanted a shiny new 6th military branch to play with. A space force to carry America's war-making power to a cosmic level. His loyal lieutenant, Mike Yes Man Pence, promptly saluted, calling Trump's whim an idea whose time has come. America's military leaders rolled their eyes at this folly, but they've since snapped to attention and are preparing to launch Captain Trump's grandiose space dreams. In a melodramatic speech, Pence declared that the new Space Command will, quote, seek peace in space as on Earth. That's not very comforting. However, he says he's thrilled that Trump's Space Force will be led by a 4-star general, have its own bureaucracy with a multi-billion-dollar budget, have a separate division to funnel money to corporate war contractors, and have its own snappy uniforms. Won't all that look great if Trump ever gets that big showy military parade he's been demanding as a tribute to his leadership as a cocktail room warrior? This is Jim Hightower saying, the Trumpeteers gush that this extraplanetary extravagance will attract, quote, America's best and bravest to serve us as war fighters. Of course, their privileged families won't have to fight in any of the space wars they're dreaming up for other families to fight.
If you'd like more of Jim Hightower's real populism, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter gives you the real lowdown on which corporations, by name, are doing what to the middle class, our environment, and our democracy. Each month, the Hightower Lowdown brings you facts you didn't know, along with actions you can take to fight back. It also comes with a sense of humor. Hightower believes we can fight the gods and still have fun. Plus, get this, it's cheap. Only $15 brings you 12 issues a year. For real populism, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
I read the news today, oh boy.
It's time for Nicole Sandler's What's News from NicoleSandler.com and the Progressive Voices Network.
Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh and the first woman to come forward to accuse him of sexual assault both testify Thursday morning in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Earlier this week, a second woman, Deborah Ramirez, accused Kavanaugh of exposing himself during a Yale University dorm party at which they were both drunk. And Michael Avenatti, the attorney for Stormy Daniels, released a statement from a third woman, Julie Swetnick, who alleged Kavanaugh attended parties decades ago where she and other women were victims of gang rape. Kavanaugh denies it all. The Judiciary Committee released interviews between investigators and Judge Kavanaugh in which he denied the allegations of sexual assault or sexual misconduct against him, including some new claims. Kavanaugh also released pages from his personal calendar from 1982, showing his notes about events and activities. The president held his first solo press conference in 587 days on Wednesday, only his second since taking office. Trump defended Kavanaugh, but said he'll watch the hearing along with the rest of us.
And you will wait until tomorrow to make up your mind?
I want to watch. I want to see. I hope I can watch. I'm meeting with a lot of countries tomorrow, but I will certainly in some form be able to watch. And I'll also rely on some very fair and talented Republican senators who, look, if we brought George Washington here and we said we have George Washington, the Democrats would vote against him, just so you understand. And he may have had a bad past. Who knows? You know, he may have had some, I think, accusations made. Didn't he have a couple of things in his past? George Washington would be voted against 100% by Schumer and the con artists. I mean, 100%, 100%.
But Trump made it clear that he doesn't believe the accusations.
And these are all false to me. These are false accusations in certain cases, and certain cases, even the media agrees with that. I can only say that what they've done to this man is incredible.
Trump was asked about the fact that he always seems to side with the accused instead of the accusers.
You seem to, time and again, side with the accused and not the accuser. Is that because of the many allegations that you've had made against you over the years?
Whether it's a man or a woman, these are, you know, it can happen the other way. Allegations can go the other way also. You understand that. And whether it was a man or a woman, 30 years ago, 36 years ago, in fact, they don't even know how many years ago because nobody knows what the time is. That's a long time. And I could pick, as an example, hopefully I won't have to do it as a replacement because hopefully this is going to go very well on Thursday. It's going to go very well on Monday or Saturday or Sunday or whenever they vote. But I could pick a woman, and she could have charges made from many years ago also.
But don't you understand,
and I would
that
look at the character.
No,
what I have to do
are reluctant to come forward. You've raised doubts about these accusers. Many of them.
I don't think people are reluctant to come forward. They're going to have a chance to speak at a. They have a major chance to speak. Excuse me. they have a major chance to speak. Now, it's possible I'll hear that and I'll say, hey, I'm changing my mind. We want to give them a chance to speak.
You think all three
and they're given.
Chance? All three should have the chance to
Well,
speak?
whoever is given a chance. We've delayed it a long time, but they're going to have a big shot at speaking and making their case. And you know what? I could be persuaded also. Okay?
Trump seemed to be confused about exactly who would be testifying Thursday morning. For the record, it's only Christine Blasey Ford and Kavanaugh himself. The Senate Judiciary Committee has not agreed to hear from Deborah Ramirez or Julie Swetnick. During the almost 90-minute press conference on Wednesday, Trump was also asked about issues other than Kavanaugh, including the fact that he is supposed to meet with Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein to deal with the allegations made in a New York Times story that Rosenstein had considered using the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from power.
Yes. You have another meeting tomorrow with Rod Rosenstein.
Yes.
Are you planning to fire Rod Rosenstein?
I'm talking to him. We've had a good talk. He said he never said it. He said he doesn't believe it. He said he has a lot of respect for me, and he was very nice, and we'll see. And he's a member of the Trump administration in that sense. It's the Justice Department. I would certainly prefer not doing that.
Earlier in the day on Wednesday, Trump presided over the UN Security Council and accused China of attempting to meddle in the 2018 midterm elections.
Regrettably, we found that China has been attempting to interfere in our upcoming 2018 election, coming up in November, against my administration. They do not want me or us to win because I am the first president ever to challenge China on trade. And we are winning on trade. We are winning at every level.
But not a word about Russia. In other news, the House on Wednesday passed an $853 billion spending bill that does not include money for Trump's border wall. And the Federal Reserve raised a key interest rate for the third time this year and forecast another rate hike before the end of the year.
I got good news.
And that's a bit of what's news for now. I'm Nicole Sandler. If you appreciate these reports and the Nicole Sandler Show, I hope you'll consider making a contribution. My work is 100% listener funded, and I can't do it without your help. Find out more at NicoleSandler.com/donate.
You can help stop the Trump agenda in its tracks. Make sure you're registered to vote. Go to rockthevote.org. And on November 6th, vote for Democrats up and down the ticket. This message, a public service from all the fine people of netrootsradio.com.
From United Nations headquarters in New York, I'm Luke Vargas with your World in 2 minutes. President Trump used a UN Security Council meeting ostensibly focused on the spread of weapons of mass destruction Wednesday to accuse China of trying to tip the midterm elections against him.
They do not want me or us to win because I am the first president ever to challenge China on trade. And we are winning on trade. We are winning at every level.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi could be seen shrugging off Trump's accusation, and he later said through a translator that China prides itself on non-interference.
We did not and will not interfere in any country's domestic affairs. We refuse to accept any unwarranted accusations against China.
To date, the U.S. government has offered no direct evidence China intends to sway the results of November's elections, but indirect evidence abounds. A government media bulletin this summer described the country's tariff strategy as aiming to, quote, strike accurately and carefully, splitting apart different domestic groups in the U.S. Various Chinese tariffs have also had scalpel-like precision, targeting key employers in the home districts of Republican congressional leaders. And one video from a Chinese state broadcaster even went so far as to muse about how soybean tariffs could dampen enthusiasm for Trump in traditional Republican strongholds.
But the funny thing is that those voters whom Trump thinks will rally behind his trade actions will be hurt by this conflict. That's because China's retaliatory response in raising tariffs on soybeans will affect the top 10 soybean-producing states in the U.S. So will voters there turn out to support Trump and the Republicans once they get hit in the pocketbooks?
Whether that amounts to proper election meddling may be in the eye of the beholder. At the very least, though, Trump may have found a convenient foreign scapegoat should Republicans fare poorly in November. Luke Vargas, The United Nations.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays, a little bit of jambalaya, a little bit of spice in your life. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 53 degrees Fahrenheit. So it did only get into the low 50s, as I thought it would be a tad lower, but hey, what's a degree here or there? We're going to have nearly the same temperature and weather as we had yesterday. Going to have a high around 96, which is what it was yesterday for the most part. Winds right now have shifted, and they are out of the southwest at a negligible 1 mile per hour, and will remain light and variable out of the southwest throughout the day, through the night, and into tomorrow. And we're going to have an overnight low in the upper 50s, and then tomorrow a high of a little bit lower, expected to be about 93. So then, I have to say, on Saturday, it drops precipitously, and I mean that literally, too. There's going to be some precipitation. But the temperature will plummet to 78. And we are expected to have almost an inch of rain from thunderstorms, which may not be necessarily a good thing. Because if there's not rain with that thunder, I mean with that lightning, because the thunder comes after. Does it? Well, at least when we hear it. Regardless, when thunderstorms come through, you hope that whatever fires it starts, the rain that comes with that thunderstorm hopefully puts it out. So let's hope that happens. Ragweed pollen remains high. The air quality index is in the good range, but has inched up to 46 parts per million. There is a fire that was reignited, and that happens out in the wild. The Klondike fire, it's called, and that's throwing up a little bit of smoke in the air. And let's hope that the rain takes it away and doesn't give us more. Let's hope. Pressure is... the daytime UV index is moderate at 5. The barometric pressure is holding steady at 29.96. Visibility is up to 10 miles. And the humidity is down to 43%. Very dry. Okay, weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchase. These people planted these personal weather stations somewhere on their property. And these people positively live around the world. London is 72 degrees and sunny. Paris is 78 and sunny. Rome is 79 and sunny. Kiev is 56 and mostly cloudy. Kabul is 72 and mostly cloudy. Might have a wedding reception or two. You might be able to sneak it in. Be careful. Hong Kong is 77 and clear. Tokyo is 61 degrees and fair. Sydney, Australia is 56 degrees and clear. San Francisco, California is 51 and cloudy, and they are under a fog advisory, so be careful out there. Also, they found cracks in the new Transbay terminal. Cracks in the steel beams. Wow. You mean Chinese steel? I've been whining about this for a long time because I'm a big proponent of American steel. We make the best steel in the world. but they didn't hire an American steel maker to make the Bay Bridge, and that has problems with its steel because it's corroding because it wasn't coated and welded and manufactured to withstand what? Salt water. You know, a big component of what's in the bay. Hence the Bay Bridge. And now, the Trans-Bay Terminal has some defective steel. If at first you don't succeed, keep chipping away. Well, okay, so San Francisco has fog. Enough of that rant, because we have to tell you what New York is, because New York is 65 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. Erik Prince of Share Blue Media brings us this first offering here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays, if you don't count the weather as being the first offering. Okay, just, if you want to be clear. All right. Well, after a third woman comes forward with horrifying allegations about Brett Kavanaugh, even one of his most prominent defenders is dialing it down. The Judicial Crisis Network, a conservative group that has been heavily promoting and defending Brett Kavanaugh, seemed to soften its support of the embattled Supreme Court nominee on Wednesday. Appearing on MSNBC, Carrie Severino, chief counsel of the Judicial Crisis Network, wouldn't say definitively if Kavanaugh should be confirmed in light of the third woman who has come forward with allegations of sexual assault. I think we have to look into this further, but I think from what we know so far, we don't have corroboration yet. And so I think if the Senate votes on this soon, I think they would have to go on what they know so far, she said, when asked about the looming confirmation vote. That's a dramatically different take compared to what the group was saying just 1 week ago. The 11th hour character assassination, this just does not add up. We're not going to stand by and let Judge Kavanaugh be smeared, the group said in a statement last week. Countless women have attested to his exemplary personal and professional character throughout his life. Well, the shift in rhetoric comes as Judicial Crisis Network recently stopped running ads in support of Kavanaugh. Yep, indeed. Severino's halting defense of Kavanaugh came right after Julie Swetnick released a sworn declaration signed under penalty of perjury, leveling serious accusations against Kavanaugh. Swetnick says she witnessed Kavanaugh sexually assault other girls at parties in high school, that he and his friends facilitated gang rapes at these parties, that he was present when she was personally gang raped at one such party. Now, let's also remember and remind ourselves, this is a sworn statement under penalty of perjury. Oh, and did I mention also she has the highest level security clearance? Oh, no, she's the deep state. She has one of those. Yeah, I can tell where the right wing's going to go with this. But, hey, when you can't win, turn them into witches. Malign them. Today, the Republican Supreme Court nomination process is overseen by two key outside groups. The Federalist Legal Society is given extraordinary power to groom and select potential nominees, and to then shepherd them through the political process on Capitol Hill, while the Judicial Crisis Network is designed to provide political cover in the form of nationwide ad campaigns. And we've been getting a lot of pro-Kavanaugh ads about what a great guy he is, just a regular carpool dad. Well, I don't know. The regular carpool dads I know or have heard about usually have their pictures up on the post office as one of the most wanted. The Judicial Crisis Network was co-founded by Leonard Leo, who runs the Federalist Society. And the JCN banks millions in its so-called dark money donations, which means it's not possible to find out who is paying for their right-wing ad buys, like the recent $1.5 million ad blitz in support of Kavanaugh. The partisan group has already experienced an awful few days with regards to Kavanaugh's crumbling nomination. One of the ads the group previously produced featured glowing praise for Kavanaugh by Louisa Gary, a woman who has known Kavanaugh for 35 years and went to college with him at Yale University. He's dedicated to his work. He's dedicated to his family. He is of the highest integrity as a person, and I believe that he would be a great Supreme Court justice, she testified. But this week, Gary asked that her name be removed from a letter of support for Kavanaugh after Deborah Ramirez told the New Yorker that the Supreme Court nominee had sexually assaulted her while the two were students at Yale. And the reason being is that she knows Deborah Ramirez very well. Will more Kavanaugh allies soon be jumping ship?
Je te donne ce mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer. Mes automnes, quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers, c'est tout.
Last offering here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is brought to us by Reuters. Dateline, London. The real identity of one of the men wanted by Britain for the Salisbury nerve agent attack on former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter is Anatoly Vladimirovich Shapiga, according to media reports which said he was a decorated Russian colonel. Earlier this month, British prosecutors charged two Russians, Alexander Petrov and Ruslan Bosharov, with attempted murder for the Novichok poisoning of the Skripals in the southern English city in March, but said they believe the suspects had been using aliases to enter Britain. The Daily Telegraph and the BBC said Bosharov's real name was Chapiga, citing investigative reporting by Bellingcat, a website which covers intelligence matters. Two European security sources familiar with the Skripal investigation said the details were accurate. Russia denies any involvement in the poisoning, and the two men have said they were merely tourists who had flown to London for fun and visited Salisbury to see its cathedral, and then they were going to have a steak afterward, like a Salisbury steak. The British government knows both their real identities, sources close to the investigation have said. Oh, you mean the Defense Ministry? The Telegraph reported that Chapiga, age 39, had served in wars in Chechnya and Ukraine and was made a hero of the Russian Federation by decree by Vladimir Putin in 2014. The Metropolitan Police were investigating the poisoning, and the Foreign Office declined to comment on the report, but British Defense Minister Gavin Williamson appeared to confirm its veracity. Now, the Russian embassy in London was not immediately available to comment, and the Kremlin has previously said the suspects have nothing to do with Putin. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but not not Netroots Radio. Netroots Radio will broadcast on with all that breaking news and of the hearing that is occurring right now. I'm sure Hartman will have some of it if it's still occurring. So do stay tuned for that. We're going to meet up with you tomorrow for Blue Moon Spirits Fridays because we all need an extra French 77. Okay, we do. We deserve it. Okay, so do stay tuned to Netroots Radio for the rest of the day into the night for all the breaking news as it breaks, and we'll meet up with you tomorrow in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goer. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.